But Donald Trump heard a voice out in this country that no one else heard. He connected in ways with people no one else did. He turned politics on its head. And now, Donald Trump will lead a unified Republican government. And we will work hand in hand on a positive agenda to tackle this country's big challenges. I want to congratulate my friend Mike Pence. Mike Pence is a good man, a principled conservative, and he will make a great vice president. I want to congratulate Reince Priebus. You need to know how proud we are in Wisconsin of Reince Priebus. What he has done to rebuild our party is remarkable. I want to congratulate Mitch McConnell and our Republican colleagues in the Senate. I want to congratulate Ron Johnson, something that we worked so hard here at home on his victory. Ron, Scott Walker, and I just spent 4 days on a bus in Wisconsin, crisscrossing this state, urging all Republicans to come together to unify to win, and that's exactly what happened. It was close quarters at time, and it was worth it to get Ron back in the next 6 years. Of course, I'm immensely proud of the campaign that our House members and our candidates ran. I want to congratulate Greg Walden and the team at the NRCC and our entire House leadership team. What a phenomenal job. Look at it this way. Our House majority is bigger than expected. We won more seats than anyone expected, and much of that is thanks to Donald Trump. Donald Trump provided the kind of coattails that got a lot of people over the finish line so that we could maintain our strong House and Senate majorities. Now we have important work to do. Many months ago, Republicans in the House united around a bold, specific agenda for this country. It offers a better way forward for America, and it will help us hit the ground running as we work with Donald Trump to do this. We will honor the timeless principles that our country was founded on: liberty, freedom, free enterprise, consent of the governed, and we will apply those principles to the problems of the day. This is the kind of unified Republican government that we set out to deliver. I want to close with this. There is no doubt our democracy can be very messy, and we do remain a sharply divided country. But now, as we do every 4 years, we have to work to heal the divisions of a long campaign. I think President-elect Donald Trump set the perfect tone last night for doing just this. And I know President Obama and Secretary Clinton are committed to bringing the country together. This needs to be a time of redemption, not a time of recrimination. We all need to rededicate ourselves to making America great and making it a more perfect union. With that, let me take your questions.
Mr. Speaker,
Kelly O.
During the campaign, there were times when you were critical of Donald Trump. You said you could no longer defend him. Today, clearly, you are embracing him. Some of your colleagues were critical of you, thinking you had not embraced Donald Trump enough during the campaign. Is your relationship with the president-elect and your conservatives in the House intact?
Yes, it is. I think our relationship's fine. I've spoken with Donald twice in the last 18 hours. We spoke last night. We spoke again this morning. I spoke with my good friend Mike Pence twice as well. I think we are going to hit the ground running. We're already talking about getting our transitions working together. We're very excited. Look, Kelly, when I say 7 out of 10 Americans don't like the direction the country's going, they just voted. I think what Donald Trump just pulled off is an enormous political feat. It's an enormous feat in that he heard those voices that were out there that other people weren't hearing, and he just earned a mandate, and we now just have that unified Republican government. If you listen to us in the closing days of this campaign, whether it was crisscrossing America or crisscrossing Wisconsin, we were making an appeal to our fellow citizens and to all Republicans to come home and to unify, and we did just that, and that's why I'm excited about where we are.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
During any of your conversations with the president-elect, did he assure you that he supports your speakership?
We had great conversations about how we work together on the transition to make this work together. We're trying to get our schedules lined up to meet, to flesh out how we build our transition, how we go forward. And so, yes, I'm very excited about our ability to work together. Yeah.
What do you say to voters in Wisconsin and nationwide who were concerned about some of the things that you were concerned about during this campaign? President-elect Trump's comments about women, Muslims, and Latinos. What do you say to people who aren't concerned?
I'll say to Wisconsinites what I said to Wisconsinites before the election. Look at these issues. Look at the potential for our country. Look at the direction we've been going. Look at the direction we need to go. And look at what a unified Republican government can get you. Look, I'm really proud of the fact that for the first time since 1984, Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes went to Republicans. This is an enormous feat. But frankly, you saw the Marquette poll. I mean, Charles, you saw it. We didn't think it could happen. Donald Trump turned it on its head. Donald Trump delivered the 10 electoral votes. And by the way, he helped elect a strong majority in the Senate and a strong majority in the House. Charles.
Let me ask you about that. You said use the word mandate. You're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. How quickly, how soon, what does it look like? And what do you say to those folks that just don't feel like he is going to be their president?
I think after a tough campaign where people believe that they were pitching so hard from one side or the other, the time is to heal and to unify. This health care law, Charles, is not a popular law. This health care law is collapsing under its own weight. And so to your specific question about repealing and replacing Obamacare, this Congress, this House majority, this Senate majority has already demonstrated and proven we're able to pass that legislation and put it on the president's desk. Problem is, President Obama vetoed it. Now we have President Trump coming, who is asking us to do this. So with unified Republican government, we can fix this. We can fix these problems. Look, it's not just the health care law that we can replace, because we now have shown the willingness and the ability to do it. There are so many more things that I'm excited about. Think about the laid-off coal workers now who see relief coming. Think about the farmers here in Wisconsin who are being harassed by the EPA and the waters of the USA. Think about the ranchers in the West who are getting harassed by the Interior Department or the laid-off timber workers. There is relief coming. This is good for our country. This means that we can lift the oppressive weight of the regulatory state. We can restore the Constitution. Think about the conservative, Constitution-respecting judges that will be nominated. This is very exciting. Tim.
Speaker, I wonder if you see a reconfiguration of the Republican Party at this point, perhaps sort of away from the ideas aspect you have long talked about, the promotion of conservative principles, and more towards sort of a populist Republican Party. And as part of that, also, I wonder, a lot of your colleagues in the House and Senate candidates as well ran explicitly saying that they would be a check on this incoming Republican president. And I wonder, as Speaker, what is the balance you need to strike now between working with President?
It's a good question.
Trying to hedge, to make sure that national government does not repeat the mistakes of the latter half of the George W. Bush.
I think the mistakes of the Republican government is that we didn't do the right thing at the right time.
Again, we have been listening to the first public remarks from House Speaker Paul Ryan since the election of Donald Trump. We learned last night that, in fact, the Speaker had reached out to Donald Trump in the early morning hours to congratulate him on the night. We just heard him say that they had great conversations about the transition of power. He called what Donald Trump has done an enormous political feat, and interestingly gave credit to Donald Trump for protecting congressional majorities, and said he set the perfect tone with Trump's first remarks last night. To discuss it all, Steve Chigueras has been sticking around for us, and we're now joined by Leslie Sanchez, a Republican strategist and CBSN political contributor. What do you make, Leslie? Again, this was a tenuous relationship. It was one that seemed to mark mostly the bad times for Donald Trump, certainly in the primary process, but a great deal of there's a real conciliatory feel here that we're seeing.
Well, I think what people are recognizing, this is the largest political, seismic political shift in modern history. And you have to respect that when we say the people have spoken, they have, and people that very much feel that they were invisible and that the media, the Washington elites, and everybody else were not listening.
And even Paul Ryan.
And even Paul Ryan, there was a tremendous amount of condescension, you cannot say, not only for Trump himself, but the people that supported Trump, the surrogates around Trump, and they just don't know Washington, they don't know how things are going to work, but we will. Even at the Republican National Convention, a lot of people didn't show up. It was not people that we normally knew in terms of party leaders, and some party leaders didn't even come to the convention because they were frustrated. It was a very a difficult task to try to bring this party and unify it together. The interesting thing is, now comes the next transition to governance. And we've always wondered, what would governance, the governing body look like? There's a clock ticking. What is President-elect Trump's chief of staff going to look like, his executive team? Because that's the part where a lot of new presidents fall, is not able to establish people that understand how Washington works. If they can get this kind of trifecta going of working with Speaker Ryan, getting a good executive branch, and getting immediately some of those high-level cabinet positions confirmed, and working through the Senate, there is a possibility to really make strides. But if they don't, that's the handicap. If they don't, it's going to be such a disconnect because they don't really know how Washington works.
I think it's telling, we were talking about this earlier, that he referred to Mike Pence as my good friend twice. And I think that we were discussing what role is Mike Pence going to have in all of this. I think he is going to be the glue that makes these Republicans stick together, because there's a lot of distrust among Republicans about this guy. They're going to be behind Trump because he won. And as Ryan pointed out, the feat that he performed yesterday, which was hearing the voices of voters that others weren't hearing, they're going to have to respect that, but they don't necessarily trust him. And so I think Mike Pence is the guy that can sort of bridge that gap between Trump and all the other Republicans in Washington.
And that's very true. And those are the calls that are coming out right now. It's people associated with Governor Pence. They're really kind of fielding a lot of conversations with people because they need each other. This is one of those relationships where they're codependent on each other's success. They need, kind of to that point, Trump's campaign and Trump's governing body needs people who understand how Washington works so they can facilitate that. Without that, they're really absent the intelligence and the ability to navigate Washington.
Speaker Ryan mentioned a breadbasket of to-do items, right? That's mixed metaphors, you'll have to excuse me. Obamacare, obviously at the top of the list, repealing EPA regulations. No mention, however, of Donald Trump's signature proposals. Immigration, building the wall, deportation task force, or some iteration thereof, and trade. That those are divisive issues when you talk about the Republicans working with other Republicans, Leslie. Where do you see those fitting in the early stages of this administration?
Sure. I think the real reason that Trump did extremely well, he was able to articulate three main areas, right? The one being immigration reform you're talking about, the second being trade and the loss of jobs making U.S. competitive, and the third, obviously, Obamacare and these rising premiums were really just the pointed part of the spear on that. Immigration reform is interesting because I've argued that Donald Trump may actually be somebody who can get both sides to the table. They will listen to him, and if he's going to strike a deal, so to speak, it was almost like Nixon in China. It needed somebody who could speak the language of kind of the hard right and say, this is the deal we're going to negotiate. And somebody, obviously, as they're dealing with border enforcement first, deporting criminal aliens, some of those things that a lot of people fundamentally agree on. And you saw the tone start to change, and I think Steve might recall more of that, about it was like no deportation task. That was more Ted Cruz with this deportation task force.
But it was something that Donald Trump gave voice to. I mean, he said
That's
it.
right.
He was asked about it. He said
it.
And you may be right if he was staking out an extreme position to negotiate his way to a center, but
That's the question,
we heard about the
big
wall
question.
2 days ago.
I think the wall
Is the wall
wall's not-
figurative?
the wall's already there.
No,
There's
wall
already
is not
a
going
wall.
away.
The
wall
wall's
is
not
his
going away.
signature, right? But that's something he can use to placate, like you said, some part of the Republican Party that wants a hardline answer on this, but then work with others such as Paul Ryan, who want to work on immigration reform. That isn't a deportation force,
When you
but
say the wall isn't going away, what practically does that mean? Will there be a wall?
He's going to push to build a wall. It came up in every single speech.
That Mexico
and
will still pay
every
for.
single time Donald Trump opened his mouth in public,
Sure.
the wall came out.
But you
right?
believe that
That's
will-
one of the few things I think that is non-negotiable with him, right? That's what's interesting about Trump, and I think we've seen this over the course of his campaign. I think he said things a lot of times to start the conversation or to pander to certain voters, right? Those two things. I'm not sure how much we should take literally what he says. And I'm not saying we shouldn't investigate the kinds of things he says, we shouldn't hold his feet to the fire, but this guy's a businessman and a negotiator, right? And you gotta wonder how much of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is just to start the conversation, right? The wall is not part of that. There's no question that the wall is something that he wants to do.
You think that's a deliverable?
He thinks it's a deliverable.
Okay,
Whether
but
it's actually deliverable.
There's a brazen political calculus aside.
Yes.
The wall to be paid for by Mexico.
Yeah.
Safe zones in Syria.
I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Paid for by Gulf states.
I'm not arguing it's going to happen. I'm just saying there are certain things that he's said that are non-negotiable, and I think there are a lot of things that he said that were there to start a conversation
NATO
about
bills
issues.
coming due, or we may or may not be there for you in a time of need.
All of that, okay, come on. Barack Obama came in saying, I'm going to do immigration reform in the first 100 days. I'm going to do it in the first year. Oh, come on. And then they said, no, it'll be the first
Senate
year of the
passed a
second
bipartisan
term.
immigration reform. Let's not forget about that.
They politically tied any ability to really do reform on that end, especially people who've been fighting for it since 96. Like I've been in the trenches of that forever. That is such a political football that the left has used. But To Steve's point on immigration reform and building the wall, Donald Trump goes down to Laredo, Texas, the largest inland port in America, 14,000 trucks moving every day. And the first thing he does when he walks through that border crossing area, he says, wait a minute, what is this building? It's a bank. And he realized it was a bank. And he starts to understand how much money comes through here. Who keeps the money when it comes through? Because there's a tariff, a tax that these truckers pay back and forth. $40 million or so that goes to the city of Laredo. And he starts to understand the economic opportunity. He's like, okay, I get it. And immediately, if you talk to folks on the ground, city managers and such they're like, he understood how important commerce and legal trade was moving back and forth as much as he went on the stump and talked about, losing jobs to Mexico. So there is some of this that's going to have to come out in terms of how that's going to align with where he thinks is going to keep America stronger.
How accountable do you suppose he will be held by an angry electorate, which he tapped, you could argue he weaponized, but which will not forget? And I know we can discuss how figurative or literal the construction of a wall running the entire length of the southern border might be, but there might never have been, I mean, you mentioned this transformative moment in American politics, there might never have been a president-elect now who will be held more accountable expressly for what was promised than Donald Trump.
And I think he will be. I think voters don't forget, and I think there are plenty of voters who voted for him because of some of the specific things that he is promising. And if he doesn't deliver, or if he fails to deliver because it seems as if it's his fault, he will be held accountable. Voters will hold him accountable. And now, what does that result in? Does that result in a primary challenge in 2020, or does that result in these people just being unenthusiastic about him if he is the nominee again and running for re-election? I don't know how that manifests itself.
We are actually going to go now to the New Yorker Hotel. You see there Senator Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate, giving his wife Ann Holton a kiss. He is set to begin his remarks. He will be introducing Hillary Clinton, who will then be delivering a concession speech to the New Yorker Hotel. We go.
My wife Ann and I are so proud of Hillary Clinton. I'm proud of Hillary Clinton because she has been and is a great history maker in everything she has done as a civil rights lawyer and First Lady of Arkansas and First Lady of this country and Senator and Secretary of State. She has made history in a nation that is good at so many things, but that has made it uniquely difficult for a woman to be elected to federal office. She became the first major party nominee as a woman to be president, and last night won the popular vote of Americans to be president. That is an amazing accomplishment. It is an amazing accomplishment. I'm proud of Hillary Clinton because, in the words of Langston Hughes, she's held fast to dreams. She was inspired at a young age to an epiphany that if families and children do well, that's the best barometer for whether a society does well. And in everything she's done, she's focused on that. We know she would have made history as a president in one sense, but we never have had a president who's made their whole career about the empowerment of families and children, and I was as excited about that in the Oval Office as I was excited to have my friend Hillary there and make history as the first woman president. I'm excited and proud of Hillary because she has built such a wonderful team. There's a beautiful and kind of comical parable in the New Testament about a vineyard owner who hires people to work and says, and I'm going to pay you this for a full day. Then he hires people at noon, and I'm going to pay you the same thing for the half day. Then he hires people 1 hour before, I'm going to pay you the same. And those who started early in the day said, hold on, You know, we don't like this, that you're treating everybody who came late just as well as you're treating us. I'm going to tell you something. Here's what I've come to know so well about Hillary. The team that she has assembled over the years of people that are so deeply loyal to her because she's so deeply loyal to them is inspiring. But I've seen that same degree of loyalty and compassion and sensitivity extended to the most recent folks who have joined the team, the folks who came to the Vineyard with just 1 hour to go. Her loyalty and compassion of Hillary and Bill to people, if you're with you, you're with you, and that is just something so remarkable. And finally, I'm proud of Hillary because she loves this country. Nobody, Nobody had to wonder about Hillary Clinton whether she would accept an outcome of an election in our beautiful democracy. Nobody had to ask that question. Nobody had to doubt it. She knows our country for what it is. She knows the system that we have, and in its warts and blemishes, she's deeply in love with it and accepts it. She's been in battles before where if it didn't go her way, she accepted it, but then woke up the next day and battled again for the dreams that she's held fast to. And that love of country is something that I think is obvious to everybody, obvious to everyone. I want to thank Hillary Clinton for asking Ann and I to join this wild ride. We, about a week before she asked if I would be a running mate, Ann and I went up to Westchester and we sat down with Hillary and Bill and with Chelsea and Mark and with Charlotte and Aiden for about 3 hours of conversation to try to determine whether we would be the right people to be on the ticket. And when we got in the car to head back to the airport after the 3-hour discussion, I said to Ann, honey, I don't know whether we're going to be on this ticket or not, but I do know this. We're going to remember that 3 hours for the rest of our life. And now we'll remember 105 days that we've had with this fantastic couple of public servants and all of you for the rest of our life. I'll just say this. Hillary and I know well the wisdom and the words of William Faulkner. He said, they killed us, but they ain't whooped us yet. They killed us, but they ain't whooped us yet. Because we know that the work remains. We know that the dreams of empowering families and children remain. And in that work, that important work that we have to do as a nation, it is so comforting, even at a tough time, to know that Hillary Clinton is somebody until her very last breath is going to be battling for the values that make this nation great and the values that we care so deeply about. So now, please join me in welcoming Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very rowdy group. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for being here. And I love you all, too. Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country. But I feel pride and gratitude for this wonderful campaign that we built together, this vast, diverse, creative, unruly, energized campaign. You represent the best of America, and being your candidate has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I know how disappointed you feel because I feel it too. And so do tens of millions of Americans who invested their hopes and dreams in this effort. This is painful, and it will be for a long time. But I want you to remember this. Our campaign was never about one person or even one election. It was about the country we love and about building an America that's hopeful, inclusive, and big-hearted. We have seen that our nation is more deeply divided than we thought. But I still believe in America, and I always will. And if you do, then we must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power. And we don't just respect that, we cherish it. It also enshrines other things: the rule of law, the principle that we are all equal in rights and dignity, freedom of worship and expression. We respect and cherish these values too, and we must defend them. And let me add, our constitutional democracy demands our participation, not just every 4 years, but all the time. So let's do all we can to keep advancing the causes and values we all hold dear, making our economy work for everyone, not just those at the top, protecting our country and protecting our planet, and breaking down all the barriers that hold any American back from achieving their dreams. We've spent a year and a half bringing together millions of people from every corner of our country to say with one voice that we believe that the American dream is big enough for everyone, for people of all races and religions, for men and women, for immigrants, for LGBT people and people with disabilities, for everyone. So now our responsibility as citizens is to keep doing our part to build that better, stronger, fairer America we seek. And I know you will. I am so grateful to stand with all of you. I want to thank Tim Kaine and Ann Holton for being our partners on this journey. It has been a joy getting to know them better, and it gives me great hope and comfort to know that Tim will remain on the front lines of our democracy, representing Virginia in the Senate. To Barack and Michelle Obama, our country owes you an enormous debt of gratitude. We thank you for your graceful, determined leadership that has meant so much to so many Americans and people across the world. And to Bill and Chelsea, Mark, Charlotte, Aiden, our brothers and our entire family, my love for you means more than I can ever express. You crisscrossed this country on our behalf and lifted me up when I needed it most, even 4-month-old Aiden, who traveled with his mom. I will always be grateful to the creative, talented, dedicated men and women at our headquarters in Brooklyn and across our country. You poured your hearts into this campaign. For some of you who are veterans, it was a campaign after you had done other campaigns. Some of you, it was your first campaign. I want each of you to know that you were the best campaign anybody could have ever expected or wanted. And to the millions of volunteers, community leaders, activists, and union organizers who knocked on doors, talked to neighbors, posted on Facebook, even in secret, private Facebook sites. I want everybody coming out from behind that and make sure your voices are heard going forward. To everyone who sent in contributions as small as $5 and kept us going, thank you. Thank you from all of us. And to the young people in particular, I hope you will hear this. I have, as Tim said, spent my entire adult life fighting for what I believe in. I've had successes and I've had setbacks, sometimes really painful ones. Many of you are at the beginning of your professional, public, and political careers. You will have successes and setbacks too. This loss hurts, but please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it. It is worth it. And so we need you to keep up these fights now and for the rest of your lives. And to all the women, and especially the young women, who put their faith in this campaign and in me, I want you to know that nothing has made me prouder than to be your champion. I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now. And to all the little girls who are watching this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your own dreams. Finally, I am so grateful for our country and for all it has given to me. I count my blessings every single day that I am an American. And I still believe, as deeply as I ever have, that if we stand together and work together with respect for our differences, strength in our convictions, and love for this nation, our best days are still ahead of us. Because I believe we are stronger together and we will go forward together. And you should never, ever regret fighting for that. Scripture tells us, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. So, my friends, let us have faith in each other. Let us not grow weary. Let us not lose heart. For there are more seasons to come, and there is more work to do. I am incredibly honored and grateful to have had this chance to represent all of you in this consequential election. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
And the concession speech has been delivered. Hillary Clinton, introduced by her running mate, Senator Tim Kaine. She took the stage, flanked by her family. She thanked all manner of family, volunteer, campaign staff, and spoke in the end there saying, I am incredibly honored and grateful to have had this chance to represent all of you in this consequential election. Understatement, perhaps, seeing her off the stage. And so we again are joined by our Steve Chigueras and Leslie Sanchez. Leslie, it was a speech we'd waited for, wondered when, in fact, it would be delivered. Having been delivered and hearing what she had to say, what did you make of it?
I think it was very gracious and magnanimous. I think she showed extreme leadership there, and some of her powerful lines, in trying to unify and explain the unexplainable. I think that is really what she's trying to do, and tamp down that there will be another day. I don't think we can discount how extremely difficult it is to lose at this level. Think of Walter. I mean, I'm usually on the losing end, just so we know. I've been a lot of those parties where you stream out, George H.W. Bush, that was brutal, to her husband. But thinking of Walter Mondale, who went on an island, Al Gore just disappeared, Mitt Romney, they kind of step away from politics because they put their family, their heart, their lives, their money, and they build an entire lifetime to get to this point. It takes a long time to really digest what just happened. And in this kind of movement, I think there's going to be a lot of processing for everybody and what this meant. It reminded me, everybody talking scripture today, got me all motivated. It's like he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. And I think there's a lot of people who felt that they were voiceless, and now there's a new day. But how does that come together? It's still yet to be determined. And the last point I was going to make, Hillary Clinton is really at her best when she's doing this. In her 2008 concession speech, she talked about the sisterhood of the traveling pantsuit. She talked about women, and something they took for granted early on in their campaign, but they didn't this time. And she will always be more than a footnote in history. She will be really somebody, for all her critics, Republican or Democrat, who really managed to carry that mantle. And it took a lifetime to do it, and it opened the door for, I do believe, a backbench of many governors, female governors, who are ready to step into that role.
It is, I think, when we talk about the difficulty of coming out of this moment, as you point out, Leslie, made all the more hard because, as Hillary Clinton noted, she won the popular vote. And that I think, poses a real question about the path forward. It's more like 2000, perhaps, for Democrats than any other year. We're seeing today, Steve, the end of a political dynasty.
Yeah.
This is the bookend of the Clinton era.